can you go actually like that to make sure?
How do I? It's recording 19 seconds. Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I'd like to welcome you to our third international conference, interstate conference of motivational speaking. Today there'll be only 2 speakers. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to a young man who has been a great impact in my life. Not just in my life, but seeing how much he's been really passionate about progressing in life and changing, and his passion just not about himself, but about other people. And I know the way he's impacted my life, the way he's started impacting other people's lives, and how he's trying to now reach out to the world is colossal. And I know it's going to keep on growing and growing and growing. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Slim Jim Tony. Woo!
Pleasure to be here today. I'd like to thank you all for inviting me here and being able to actually talk to you all. And without further ado, I want to share with you a very awesome analogy that I came up with 2 of my great friends and mentor, Alexey, who just spoke with you, and Pepperoni Serge. It was a great night at Panera Bread. We were talking, and Sergi brought up an idea that he had, and we ended up sitting for a couple hours writing it out. And today I want to share with you everything we wrote out. So, to start off, each of us are born with 3 basic tools, or building blocks as I like to call them. Now, I'll represent those building blocks as 3 circles. Now, those 3 circles are, the first one is passion. Now, passion is something we love doing simply just because. Now, for some people that's simply love fishing, others love helping and working with children, while others love cleaning. It varies from person to person. But it's something we love doing just because. Now, the second one is skill. We each have our own skills or things that we are exceptionally good at, and that's the key. What we are exceptionally good at. Now, that can change depending on person to person. Some of us are exceptionally good at creating music. Others are exceptionally good at drawing and writing, while others are natural-born leaders and speakers. It varies from person to person, so it's not set in stone. It's very dependent on who you are. So there's passion, skill, and the next one is value. Now, value usually is, people assume, is monetary value, but this value is a little bit different. This value is defined as something that we give back. Something that we give back to others. So that could be our time, our finances, our resources. It's being able to give something back to others. And that may include getting a little bit back, but it's not only focused on monetary. So just to declare. Now, what is a successful life? So depending on who you ask, will range very different answers. But generally I've found the general consensus is either to have a job or a career that you love doing and that you're passionate about, getting paid for it, and having the skills to back it up, and being paid for it meaning you can take care of yourself and those that you care about. So that's generally defined as a successful life. Now, how would you draw that out? So we came up with, we call it the triangle analogy. So the triangle analogy is an equilateral triangle. Now the key here is equilateral. I'm sorry, it's not perfectly equilateral. I do not have a ruler with me. But an equilateral triangle has equal sides, hence the name equilateral. So the triangle analogy is this right here. You have 3 sides, and those 3 sides are each, no order specific, are passion, skill, and value. So to have a successful life, we have to figure out how to balance out our skills, our value, and our passions. It doesn't matter what order it's in, but the triangle encompasses that idea. Now you may wonder, why a triangle? Why not like a square or a circle? And that's a very simple answer. A triangle is the strongest shape out there. Now, how is it the strongest shape? It's actually pretty interesting. The reason a triangle is so strong is whenever, I'll draw it out right here, whenever force is applied, the triangle evenly dissipates the force on all sides. So there's never one side that gets more weight, or I guess you say, depending on how much weight you're putting on top of it, it is evenly spread out. It helps deal with the stress. That's why a lot of bridges are built with triangles. If you ever look at the bottom of bridges, you'll see triangles throughout them. So that's the reason we pick a triangle. Now, what I found is, even though this is the final destination, so you could say, of a successful life, that's the end goal, a lot of us find ourselves in this position. We have 3 different lines that are all different varying lengths. Now, these could be P for passion, V for value, S for skill, so I'm just going to read it with the letters. But as you see, we each work on these areas differently. Now, it may look like this or something along the lines of this, though I found that it is very rare that people develop these areas equally. Or you may have where one area is not developed at all, one has very little, while there's an exceptional amount in another area. So depending on the person or the environment or the cultural ideas of what a successful life are, will greatly vary how the person works on their life. Now, if the end goal is to have a triangle, working on 3 lines, what does that really mean? Well, I found that when we separate the 3 building blocks or tools that we have, we end up serving or chasing 3 different areas of our life. So as if serving 3 different masters. Now, interesting piece of scripture came to mind, Matthew 6:24. It says you can't serve 2 masters because you're either going to love one or the other. And in this case, we've got 3. So even add that in the mix. And what ends up happening is it's very evident in people's lives where they're passionate about something, but that may be small. Now, the skills are great, and then they separate their time and energy into each of these fields, and that's why they grow differently. Now, if we want to get to the equilateral triangle or the successful life, we're going to have to learn to do a few not so nice things that are quite painful in human nature. Now, the question was like, what do you do? Weighed really heavy on my head for a while, and I was thinking, and the answer was actually quite simple, oddly enough, but it was the application that's hard. 1, you must be willing to let things go, and 2, you must be willing to get out of your comfort zone. Now, how would that be illustrated with this? So, let's say you have this scenario right here, and you want to get here. How would you do that? Well, 2 things you're going to have to do. Either A, you'll have to get out of your comfort zone to grow certain areas out, to grow them. And then we may have to stop certain activities, lifestyles, addictions, behaviors that we have, which would involve cutting certain areas off to shorten them out. And once we cut or add to areas of our life, we can actually work with this. Now that the sides are more even, we can piece them together, creating the successful life. Now, very easily said, much harder to apply on a real life scale. And for most of us, it's very hard because our passion may be something like this, where we don't have any at all. We go through life, paying bills, working hard, and in that we are ineffective. And on a business, that really does hurt the business world, because if a person is not motivated, does not really see what the work they're doing can have an impact on, they'll never do their full potential. So this right here is equal to max potential. And I don't know about you, but I think all of us want to be at our max potential because we can get the most done, accomplish the most. So we need to learn, for 1, willing to let go. And 2, willing to get out of our comfort zone. So these 2 things will allow for this process to begin, to see what is it I need to be cutting my time out of? What is it that I need to be developing and putting more time in? What self-development needs to move forward? Now, what's important is this is great, but if you don't have an end goal, you're gonna go towards nothing anyways. And this is where the next step really becomes key. And that next step is to define your dreams, your goals, and your ambitions. What is it that you want to accomplish? What is it that you want to do? What were you here to do? Now, that's not a very easy question to answer, and that involves the very next step of thinking, writing. You'll have to put a lot of time and energy into developing yourself. Now, one thing to keep in mind, when you reach your max potential, you can do great things. You can change the world. You can help your business rise. You can help your company rise. But when we're running on nothing and we have everything split up, we don't do our hardest in work. We don't do our hardest in anything. We just do what's easiest. And we're miserable due to it. So this is the beginning step, but unless we have a vision or an end goal, we're never going to get there. So what you must do is define your goals. So if you want to be financially successful, if you want your family life to get better, you want to have a better relationship with your kids or your wife, whatever area you want to affect, you must first define your goals to see where is it that I'm heading, what is it that I even want to do. And in defining those goals, you can start to apply these two small principles, the willingness to let go and the willingness to get out of your comfort zone. Because you'll never know if you really like something until you go out and try it. You know, you can think you may like it, you may think you may not like it, especially with food a lot of times we find this is true. You have to actually go out and do it. So if you find yourself sitting in your office bummed out because you don't know what to do, your job is miserable, you really need to start thinking, what's your goals? You need to define them. You need to define what is it that you actually want to do. And after you define that, you need to start figuring out what can I let go or what is holding me back. Because a lot of times I find certain behaviors and actions will never allow us to get to the next place in our life or the next point we want to be at because we don't want to let go of it. It's comfortable, it's easy. So if you find yourself in that position where you're hopeless, you hate your job, really start to think about what it is you want to do and how to get there. And this is what we found to be a successful life, when you have balance. And that balance is only going to come if you continually apply yourself and continually keep going at your goals, your dreams, and your aspirations, to never give up and to constantly keep pursuing. And I want to just motivate you as an audience to really start to think, to really start to analyze our lives to see, is this where I want to be? Is it not? And if not, where do I want to go? What do I need to do? What should I be doing? And not to be afraid to take the necessary steps, the simple first step and the second step to getting there. And that wraps up my triangle analogy. And I want to introduce the next speaker. He's a great friend of mine, and I don't know where I would have been if it wasn't for him in my life. He was a great mentor. He invested a lot of time, and it's amazing to see a man on a mission so grand and so great and so big in an impact, and to be part of that and to have that individual pour their time into you has been a great, just really affected me in my life, and I'm very grateful for that. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Alexey. Oh.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, today is a day to reckon, a day that should live in infamy. It's interesting, that statement, a day to live in infamy. Why not live the kind of day today that will live in infamy? And that the day I live tomorrow will leave today forgotten because it's so much greater. In today's, it's interesting, today's subject matter that we're really hitting on is doing your absolute best. And doing your absolute best, as you see, in all aspects of your life. And like it was said earlier, we need to cut things up. We need to add things into our life and to learn to become the best. And it's a challenge. It's something that we are to be moving forward to. Doing your best. It doesn't mean to do or be good or to even be great, but to become the best in everything that you do. Today, I'll be reading off of a paper just to make sure I don't repeat myself. Eventually, one day, I'll be able to be just like the previous speaker without any papers. We'll get there, we'll get there. So, it's interesting, when we get together in these kind of conferences and gatherings, we usually tend to have a very quick response to what is being said. But today, I'd like to ask you to just be dazzled. Be dazzled and be surprised. Be surprised and be ready. Be prepared and be ready. Be prepared and ready to realize. To realize what is being said today. Not just the information, but how is it actually applying to your life. In life, it's interesting how we're never shown an actual roadmap of how to get where we want to go. We are shown how to do things. We're shown how to fix a car, how to build an airplane, how to become a doctor, how to become a nurse. We're shown how to do this. But it's interesting, we're never really shown in our day and age on how to find where it is that we want to go. Because it's about where I want to be compared to where I am, then I know how to get there. So a lot of times people say, oh, I'll just take the next best thing, or my parents said this, my friend said this, my teacher said that, and we just do what they tell us, only to find out halfway there that that's not what we want to do. And that is the perfect place to be in our lives, is to know where I want to actually end up, because from what we know, there is only one chance here. So knowing where to be, that is the perfect place to be in now, knowing where you want to be. But to learn where you want to be, it's kind of like the example of when you roll the window down, and yes, as you see old school windows, when you roll those windows down, or you press that button and they come down, it's interesting. You love the feeling of the air, but you hate the sound. You always got to pay a price to get something you like. In this case, wind for air. Wind for cooling down. Noise for feeling great. Now, what's this got to do with you? What does this have to do with you personally? It's about finding who you are, finding yourself, so that you can realize where it is that you want to go. But to get there, like the window and the noise, the sound of the wind, as that is discomfort, to find who you are actually takes you out of discomfort, or into discomfort, or something that's uncomfortable. Doesn't mean it's always going to remain like that, but all growth is always uncomfortable. What are you willing to do to find out where you want to go? What are you willing to do to become? To become, you know what you need to do to become that. But what are you willing to do to find out where you want to be? I'll give you an interesting life example. Many years ago, I used to have a landscaping company. And at one point, both my brother and my dad, I don't know how that was even possible, but both my brother and my dad, who had families to support, were working for a company that I had, their younger brother. Now, I was at the top of my game. I loved landscaping. It was my thing. I mean, through sweat and blood, I was working, I was hustling, I was moving. And like I said, eventually, my dad and my brother were working for me. And however, as time progressed, during the winter times, I had an accident. And the accident was an explosion. I got put into the hospital. It was a 2-year thing where I had to completely recover. I got hurt really bad. But right when that happened, when I came to and was able to function, which took a few months before I snapped back into reality of what was going on, the first thing that people were telling me is, Alex, you will never be able to do landscaping again. Everybody knew that that was my passion. It was landscaping. I wanted to become a landscape architect, and so I decided to get hands-on experience. It was that and swimming. So everybody was telling me, no, you can't do either one. You cannot become a master landscaper. And it's interesting that halfway through my recovery, after one operation, I had a few hundred stitches on my hand and all over the place. It was winter. And by that time, looking back, I don't know what was going through my head, but I decided to restart landscaping. So in winter, you do snow shoveling. So I called people around. I'm like, I do snow shoveling. My parents are like, what are you doing? How are you going to do that? This one day we go to Boston, so as to save some time and shave some time off, I ended up taking half my stitches out by myself. Yeah, it was pretty painful. So that when we got there, we could get out faster so that I could go shoveling. It was 0 degrees. And with the kind of accident that I had, I still don't know how I did that because cold weather, it hurts you. It really does hurt your hands. Or your hand, the way the kind of damage I had. Again, what was I willing to do? In that case, I was willing to go through a lot of discomfort first to prove to others and to prove to myself and to go pursue a passion that I had before. The willingness. We have to have the willingness to step forward, to step closer and closer and closer to our dreams. Yes, that's right. Uncomfortable. That is what we have to get comfortable with, is being uncomfortable. Shoveling snow in 0 degree weather, having just stitches taken out, your hands still might start squirting blood all over the place. That is how far we have to go. Now, was it the healthiest? Was it the best choice? Great question. Don't have an answer. Point is, how far are we willing to go into the uncomfortable zone so that we can achieve great things? You know, we have to understand as business owners and as workers and as owners, we have to understand that we are, even in our own businesses, we are sojourners. We are temporary travelers. We are just passers-by. Just like life as a whole, we come and we leave. Your business, your work environment, your office where you work at, you're just in and out. You've come in there so that you can grow. Become the best at what you do already, and then you will be able to progress. When I first started working in the construction field, I became the best at what I did. I said, that's it, I'm going to do it. And at the point where when I got to the point of, I think I could be doing for the rest of my life. And that's when I got the next opportunity. And yes, I wanted, at that point, I really, really wanted to have the experience of working at a coffee shop. When I went there, I had to wake up at 4 in the mornings. I was like, this is stupid. And then for a few weeks, it was terrible. Then one day, I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to become the best coffee maker, the fastest, the most efficient coffee maker that ever came to this coffee shop. And guess what? Right after that happened, shortly thereafter, and I did, I was the fastest coffee maker anybody has seen to date there. Now, what happened? Then I got the next opportunity. I had to step out of my comfort zone. Then I got to go back into a construction field, but from a ministry aspect. And I did that for years and years and years. And it's only at the point where finally in my heart, not just in my mind, but in my heart, I dedicated myself to doing the best and becoming the best. And when I said I could do this for the rest of my life, serving people, that's when the next opportunity came. And that's when I moved again into an uncomfortable state so that I could learn the next thing. The next step is never comfortable in life. And that is the key. What is the overall key? To finding who you are and where you want to go in the end, or what you want to accomplish out of this life, since we only have one opportunity out of it. Do your absolute best. If there's anything you walk away with today, it's doing your absolute best so that you can become somebody like this, your max potential. And when you are striving and when you're reaching, when you're down and you're reaching out, life will finally, when you're ready, will come and take you up. Now, going up to a new level, like I said, is never comfortable. But you are sure to grow. And you are sure to be loved and adored by your employers and by your customers because you are doing your absolute best. 2 points that I do want to summarize it. You have to be willing to grow. And to grow means willing to face challenge. The second point, comfort. If you would rather have comfort, in nature, comfort means stagnant. Stagnant water means green water. Soon thereafter, it will become a swamp. And just the same in life. When you're working in an office and you're hitting your head against the, like, bam, bam, hitting your head against that screen, you're hating your life. Life has no opportunity to take you up. Give it your best. Become your best. Do what you have to do to be the best. Get comfortable growing. Grow. Or get comfortable growing, and you will find yourself growing all of a sudden. It's the law. It's the law just like the sun comes down and it will heat the earth. When you are comfortable with growth, eventually you start seeing growth. Do your best, and eventually you will become the best. Often in life, people say, I have no choice. You always got a choice. You always know what you could do. You always know, you need to understand that you always have a choice. However, the feeling of discomfort is what you'd rather not have, so you try to use the excuse of I don't have any choice. But you always have a choice. You always have a choice to grow, to progress. Often in life, when we find ourselves saying we don't have a choice, we're burnt out. We're burnt out at our works, at our jobs, at our work, or at our jobs, or at our projects that we're doing, or at the business that we own. We get burnt out for 4 reasons. Because we're bored at what we're doing, we're either overworked or underworked. Some have this time-glancing-itis thing. Others have difficulty concentrating. When you have these things, you know you're burning out. But here, I'm not to give you exact pointers of how and what, but these are principles. Principles to understand that you do have a choice, and the choice to grow or to be stagnant. And I'd like to leave you with a story about the 2 salesmen. These 2 salesmen, back in 1999, they came together at the end of the year party, and they said, hey, let's make a goal and put it into an envelope. And in 2000, when we come back and have this party, we'll open up and see how we did. 2000 rolls around for sure. And they open, the first guy opens it up, and he's like, whoo, I knew it, I knew it, I knew I'd get it. And the second salesman's like, well, what was your goal? What was your goal? He's like, I reached 100% of my goal. He's like, what was it? Like $50,000 in sales commission. Yeah, in sales commission, not sales. So in sales commission, I've hit it. I've hit 100%. $50,000. Yes. So then the first one looks at the second one. And he's like, the second one was kind of bummed out a little. The first one's like, why? Why that bummed out face? He's like, I only hit 50% mark. And the first one's like, well, how much was yours? He's like, well, I wanted to reach $1 million in commission. Yes. Though he only hit 50% of his goal, he was 90% further than the 100% of the first salesman. You could rewatch it and kind of get the math in that one. What are we willing to do? How far are we willing to go? What steps are we willing to take? Growth is never comfortable, but we can use it to our benefit. And when we get there, when we are pursuing who we are to be and are accomplishing the task and goal we've been set to accomplish here on earth, that is an absolute max potential life. Thank you for coming, guys, and I do wish you the best and hope to see you next time. God bless. Woo! Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Did it. We did number 3.
Woo! Yeah. And I forgot to press the record button. You said it was